Hello everyone, welcome to a new video that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. It's a childhood trauma video. I know that this trend or whatever doesn't really exist more on YouTube anymore, but I've been wanting to do it for quite a while because it probably helps understand what my mindset was and like how I got into horror and stuff. And it's not really anything to nothing real bad, I guess. But anyway, let's get into the first one. Yeah, we probably all had this childhood fear of Chucky, or the Child's Play series in its entirety. My cousins used to scare the shit out of me with this doll, even the movies. But over time, you realize it's just a movie, and that Chucky to me was just terrifying when I was a child. I did not like Chucky at all. He was just horrifying to me. Seeing this face on the screen was just, bruh. I remember as a child, I remember I have vague memories of Chucky, just terrifying me as a child. I mean, the funny thing was I was more terrified of this Chucky from the fifth movie, Seed of Chucky, which is considered the worst movie ever. And that's fucking hilarious to me now. I'd see this doll and I would just basically cower in fear and move away from it, I don't want that motherfucker to come to life. But, it's probably because, he had the scars and that, and the stitching, and probably the piece of his eye, I guess, where his eyelids and that. He does have his eyelid, but it's just that weird piece where it's just missing. Though I do remember stuff from Chucky 3 or Child's Play 3, I guess. That was horrifying. And it doesn't really help that my cousins would be watching this type of stuff when I was around. They generally basically put it on to terrify me, because I was a big movie freak as a kid. I'd sit down, watch movies for a long time. We even had a tape player, and I'd learn how to do that. But horror movies, for some reason, grabbed my fascination even more, even though they terrified me, such as Chucky. I was a very small child, so the thought of a small doll running after me was just horrifying. Yeah. Later on, I grew out of that. We got the if I was little and I saw the 2019, was it? Is it 2019 version? I think it might be. But if I saw the reboot as a child, I don't think I would be as scared. But yeah, the 2019 one, even now, it doesn't really scare me. It's very different tone, I guess. So it's, oh, he's just a robot, he's just a spooky little robot. While the thought of an actual killer doll, because I've only seen I only saw at the time I only saw, I guess, parts of the movies, and I didn't get the full context. So my brain was just trying to make it how is this doll alive? And that, oh my god, what is this? Yeah, and I just didn't know what to do or say. It was just weird. But yeah, you know, now I enjoy watching Chucky. It's amazing. The cool character in that, the concept is pretty neat. And, you know, you got stuff like the Funko Pop, which, you know, I'm not going to be like on my other channel, I'm not going to be like other horror content makers and or horror YouTubers, and they just have horror Funko Pops on their shelves behind them. Like, sure, like, I have a whole collection of Pennywise Funko Pops, which is, you know, probably the ones I'd just keep the most. We'll get to that. We'll get to, you know, it later on. Another thing that, like, I hated with Chucky was, well, of course, like, you know, my cousins would terrify me with Chucky. I don't think they actually had the doll, but it's just my cousin would always, like, say, some of the lines Chucky said. And, like, because I seen, like, some of the, like, he'd show me some of the scenes in that. I mean, his favorite line of Chucky was the "fuck with your mind" scene from the 5th movie. And he'd always do that type of shit. Both of them. I had 2 older cousins that were way older than me. And, yeah. I was basically tortured by my cousins. This does play into a bit later on in the video, like, yeah, my cousins were a big well, not really an influence in my life, but they're the ones who basically subjected me to horror, I guess. I don't know if that's the correct term for it, subjected to horror. And they basically introduced me to horror content, I guess, like Child's Play and the rest. I think, like, I wasn't really out there with, like, the gory stuff into Child's Play. I mean, I do remember the scene that creeped me out the most from Child's Play 3 was where the I can't speak. It's the garbage man, how he gets into the back and Chucky, like, crushes him and you see his arm just dangling out. That's terrified me. That scared the shit out of me. I didn't like it one bit. It was horrifying. Jeepers Creepers. Jeepers Creepers were like, they were another movie that scared me. Jeepers Creepers 3 wasn't out yet, nor was Jeepers Creepers 4, which why would I even bother watching that today? Yeah, I can't remember where I seen these ones. I don't think it. I know, like, my cousins were also involved with this one, but, you know, I think, how I was introduced to Jeepers Creepers was I went over to my grandma's house, I went to my cousins, and, like, yeah, sure, they basically tortured me with horror movies, but it wasn't out of just, like, oh, play, you know, just torturing that, you know, just be fun. No, like, I'd accidentally just walk in on them watching horror movies and that. And Jeepers Creepers was another one of them. Though they did kind of, you know, one time they were like, oh yeah, you can put on a movie to watch and shit, right? Put on a movie, we're gonna go downstairs and get some ice cream. Because at my nan's house, or my grandma's house, she has, like, a 2-story house, and, like, they had to go downstairs to the bigger freezer and get ice cream. And they closed the door, and I was just like, okay. I'm just laying on the bed, just waiting, and I look at the TV, just my eyes just glance over, because something, like, just and it was Jeepers Creepers, either 1 or 2, and I just bolted out of the room. I did not like it. And it doesn't help that this came out in, like, Jeepers Creepers 2 came out in, like, 2002 or something. And I actually watched, like, parts of it, like Chucky. And, like, that, like, the Daryl scene, Darry, fucking, I can't remember his name. This scene here did scare the shit out of me because like the fucking eyeballs and that is not even eyeballs, just back of his head shit's gone. And you can see through it. That's terrifying. Yeah, like the introduction scene, I remember that. Really, really bad. I remember just the many nights of like me not getting any sleep because I had constant nightmares. I actually remember like this movie, Jeepers Creepers 2, actually it gave me a nightmare that was the same twice. Because I used to suffer from nightmares and that as a child. Jeepers Creepers didn't help. It did not help one bit. But yeah. God, I hated this movie. I mean, like now that I look about it, like I should have thought like I think my best way to get around it, like how to not be scared of Jeepers Creepers, was that I used to watch the behind the scenes and I'd see like actors like Jonathan Breck, and I'd be like, oh wow, like they're actually pretty nice. So that's like my one way of getting around horror movies and that. But yeah, it was okay. You know, after I watched the behind the scenes, my fear of Jeepers Creepers did go down a little, unlike Chucky, because I didn't at the time. I kind of forgot about Chucky for a bit, and then came back to it in more of my teenage years. After like, I wasn't really scared of a lot of things in my teenage years. Cool. Well, I didn't have access to the internet until 2012. The good year. But yeah, the creature design for the Creeper is still bizarre to me. Like, and childhood me just fucking hated it. I think even more so than Chucky. I mean, look at this thing. Fucking terrifying. Why would any child, any sane child, be like, oh, that's a cool monster? Like, what the fuck? I do remember a few scenes in Jeepers Creepers. I think one of the scenes which is coming up for Jeepers Creepers 2. So the first, some of the scenes in the first movie was, of course, like Darry or whatever his name is sliding into the lair of the Creeper. I remember like the car scene where they try to run him over. The ending scene where he just flies out of the room with Darry. Jeepers Creepers 2, this one scene here, that did terrify me because it's the scene where like, I was gonna say kid, but it was like the teenager or whatever. You know, he gets wrapped up in the wing and then he gets his head pulled off. And what's funny is like you actually look at that scene and it's like his neck has a clean cut. Like it's been just popped off. It's not like just torn flesh or anything, which is bizarre because it's like, oh, he got his head ripped off. You know, you'd expect more visceral and gore. But no, like this, I think this one scene terrified me more because you see like the head going up through the chest and shit, and then he grabs hold of the head, pulls it up, he turns to the camera and then looks like it changes from the dude into the Creeper, and I'm just like, that's horrifying. Like, this thing was real. He could do that to anyone. Like, just the thought of that's just bad. Another one. Freddy Krueger. Old as fuck. I don't mean that in a bad sense. Freddy Krueger, I didn't really have that much exposure to until like 2010 when the trailers for the 2010 remake came out, which was, you know, bad on its own because like they actually advertised it as horror. My only exposure to Freddy Krueger was Freddy vs. Jason. Oh, about there. Yeah, Freddy vs. Jason. Even though it was like partially scary, partially action and goofy comedy, it was still terrifying to me. I mean, the 2010 remake was like I think when I watched the 2010 remake, I think only like big jump scares got me, and the trailers were just horrifying. I do remember some of like the older movies, because again, my cousins used to watch horror, and like Freddy, Jason, Chucky, Jeepers Creepers. I don't think Scream was part of that. Yeah, like they used to watch the older horror movies. They didn't really watch anything new nowadays. They're just more older stuff. And my cousins are only like 5, 8 years older than I am. And yeah, it's I don't really blame them. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't really have gotten into horror and stuff. Though I, watch horror and shit, and some stuff still terrifies me, and I'm just like, God damn, why do I do this? Why do I do this to myself? Freddy was another one of those horror icons that scared the shit out of me. I didn't like looking at Freddy. Like, Robert Englund does a fantastic job with the character. And I think Jackie Earle Haley, who plays the 2010 remake of the character, did his best in that. Like, I don't blame his version of, like, I don't blame the movie being bad on his part. He just had like a massive, I was gonna say reputation, but it's not really reputation. He's like trying to continue the icon of Freddy, and Robert Englund did so much with the character, and it's like, can you really get another actor to try and mimic that? But I understand why they went for a different, like, version, because you can't really replicate Robert Englund that much. But yeah, Freddy is another one of those characters that scared me. Here's our honorable mentions. I don't know if you can see it in the thing. Gremlins. Yay, the goofy horror-ish Christmas movie, I guess. Yeah, Gremlins scared the shit out of me, even though I have very vague memories of it as a child. But they're pretty terrifying to me. I'm trying to think what else is, like, do you remember the one scene where they're driving the not the excavator. It was one of the industrial vehicles, and it had like a big, like, thing that carried dirt on it, and they just rammed through this motherfucker's house, and supposedly, they killed him. That was just terrifying. But other than that, I think Gremlins 2 was just meh. Leprechaun is another one of those movies that did scare me a bit. I remember, like, a couple of scenes. I think I remember him, like, chasing after someone, and that's probably about it. Oh, no, I remember Leprechaun 2, the part where, what's his name? The dude's uncle wishes to get the leprechaun's pot, and it grows in his stomach. And then the leprechaun, like, he lets out the leprechaun, and the leprechaun's just like, oh, do you want it out then? And he's like, yes, please take it out. He just jams his hands into his stomach and then rips it out. Like, looking at it now, it's like not really gory or anything, but in my head, it just, like, I just remember it being gory for some reason. Another obscure horror movie, this one by Stephen King himself, Maximum Overdrive. This movie I also have a bit of vague memories on. These are more, like, to be honest, like, these are more honorable mentions. But it wasn't really the root of why, like, it wasn't really just why it scared me. I think the big fucking truck on the front there with the goblin face, that scared the shit out of me. I mean, can you imagine that thing fucking just driving after you? The idea of sentient vehicles just mowing down people, and like the sort of leader of the vehicles is the one with the fucking goblin face. That's horrifying, because it looks like it's a sadistic entity just taking joy in killing. And then, like, I mean, it is by Stephen King, that's for granted. Not really for granted, but, like, you get what I mean. It's gonna be horror. Okay, this one a lot of people may like. Some people might be like, "Huh? Why Harry Potter?" This is like Harry Potter entirely did not scare me. Harry Potter 5 did though, like the introduction scene in the movie where, Dudley is picking on Harry, and then the scene, like, it goes from, oh, like, Dudley is picking on Harry, like, oh, what's he gonna do? Oh, he threatens Dudley with his wand and shit. And then it takes a drastic fucking turn into actual horror where Dementors chase after Harry and Dudley, and then, like, just the appearance of them scared me as a kid. And, like, I watched Harry Potter 3 and I wasn't really that scared. This, like, the atmosphere was just terrifying. That's why it scared me. Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park was another one of those movies. The first one was more horror. Yes, it has. It's not really horror. It has horror elements, but some things in it did kind of scare me. Some other stuff really didn't. I mean, the fucking Dennis Nedry death scene kind of scared me, I guess, because, like, not cutaway deaths, you see it attack him in the car, and then it's just the thought of what it's doing to him is what's left me just creepy. Not to mention, instead of my cousins, this was from my uncle, who used to scare me with, like, he used to make dinosaur noises and scare the shit out of me with, like, that. So it wasn't really the movie, it was more just my uncle being a prick, But that's about it. Lost Tapes. Animal Planet's Lost Tapes. A very obscure thing about obscure show about cryptids. Yeah. There were a few episodes that scared me. I think the vampire one was a big one, because it's the one where the vampire comes out of the claws, like kid's closet, and then, like, lingers over him when he's sleeping and shit. That terrified me because I watched that episode a day before I had to go to my dad's on the weekend, and at my dad's house he had a closet. Like, in my room had a closet, but it was a sliding door, so I would have heard it, and that kind of there. The Bigfoot one, I think I watched the follow-up, and you just see all the hunters dead and that, and then that was great. The Wendigo one, that scared the shit out of me. I think I watched a lot of Lost Tapes as a kid, so yeah. I have already talked about Max Motor Drive. Let's see. Pennywise. Pennywise is one of the, like, I wasn't really, like, I didn't see it until probably in my teens. I heard a lot about it from my dad, and I'd never seen anything of it. I do remember, like, I remember seeing the image of, like, Tim Curry's Pennywise before the 2017 version came out. That was kind of creepy on its own, right? Kind of creepy and shit. It was okay. Then I saw the movie, and I kind of laughed at my dad, and I'm just like, how was this scary? And he's like, well, it's the 90s and shit. The 2017 one did scare me a bit, but not as much as, like, anything else. Alright, so on to the final one. Creepypastas. Creepypastas actually were a bigger, like, inspiration for me for more horror and shit, and did kind of terrify me as a child. I remember shit like Slenderman, Jeff the Killer, Smile Dog, Ben Drowned, what else? I wasn't into the Simpsons ones. The Herobrine wasn't really that big of a thing. But, yeah. I do remember, like, listening to creepypastas and just looking at creepypastas, like, just the story, like, the original stories of stuff, like, Tales Doll, for instance. That scared me. And, Tails Doll did scare me a lot. Sonic EXE, you know. Smart Dog was another one of those that kind of terrified me. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't really that, wasn't that bad as I think. Slenderman was everywhere, so being terrified of Slenderman wasn't really that big. I mean, we used to play the Slenderman. I was gonna say the Slenderman game, but no, it's Slender the 8 Pages. That's what it was. I've never beaten that game either. So, but yeah, creepypastas were more terrifying to me because instead of seeing what the horror is, you imagine it, which is much more terrifying because the fear of, the biggest fear is the fear of the unknown, or, the fear of the imagination. But I don't know if this is still going on, but this whole video was unscripted, and this was just my childhood trauma video, so, thank you for watching, I guess. And I know I might make another video, maybe scripted or something, but this is just something I really wanted to do. Even though this might be a bit short. I was gonna say short. But that's my childhood trauma video for you. So if you enjoyed it, thanks for watching the entire video on that. I might put out more stuff in the future, maybe scripted stuff, since this was unscripted. You can kind of tell because I'm fondling over words and that. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.